My name is Caleb, and I learned the truth about my family in a courtroom. Not at a dinner table. Not during a fight. In front of a judge, under oath, when lies don't survive long. When my grandmother died, we expected grief, not conflict. She raised me more than my own parents did. I thought whatever she left would be simple. Fair. I was wrong. Because when the will was read, my name was missing. And my mother smiled like she'd already won. My grandmother owned a modest duplex. She lived upstairs, rented the bottom unit. It paid her bills. Everyone knew she wanted it to stay in the family. What most people didn't know was how often I helped her: appointments, repairs, paperwork. She trusted me with things she didn't trust my mother with, especially money. So when the lawyer read the will and said everything went to my mother, I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not shock, recognition. This wasn't an accident. After the reading, my mother hugged me like she was comforting a child. "This is what she wanted," she said softly. I nodded. That's what I always did. But later that night, while packing up my grandmother's papers, I found something I shouldn't have. An older will, dated 2 years earlier. My name was there. Clear, specific, and crossed out in ink that wasn't my grandmother's handwriting. That's when I stopped grieving and started asking questions. I confronted my mother carefully. I asked about the earlier will. She said my grandmother changed her mind. I asked when. She couldn't say. I asked why the ink didn't match. She said I was imagining things. Then she said something she probably shouldn't have. "You don't have the resources to handle property." That sentence told me everything. This wasn't about my grandmother's wishes. It was about control. And my silence had made it easy. I hired a lawyer the next week. I felt sick doing it. Like I was betraying the woman who raised me. But my lawyer looked at the documents and frowned. "This isn't clean," she said. "We requested medical records, phone logs, notarization details." My mother fought it aggressively. That made me more certain, not less. People who have nothing to hide don't panic under light. During discovery, we found something unexpected. A voicemail my grandmother left for her attorney 3 weeks before she died. She sounded tired, but clear. She said she was being pressured and wanted the earlier will respected. The attorney never returned the call. He'd been replaced days later, with one my mother recommended. When I heard that recording, my hands shook. Not from anger, from grief. Because my grandmother tried to protect me, and failed. Court began quietly. My mother testified first. She talked about caregiving, about burden, about responsibility. She said my grandmother trusted her judgment. The judge listened. Then my lawyer played the voicemail. The room changed. My mother's face tightened. The judge asked if she'd heard the recording before. She said no. The judge asked why her attorney was changed days later. She said it was coincidence. Coincidences don't stack that neatly. Then came the handwriting expert. Calm. Precise. He explained how the ink used to cross out my name wasn't available until months after the earlier will was signed. The judge leaned forward. My mother stared at the table. My lawyer asked one final question. Who had access to the will during that period? My mother answered without thinking. I did. The courtroom went completely silent. Cross-examination began gently, then tightened. My lawyer asked my mother about dates, appointments, hospital visits, the day the attorney changed. She answered confidently at first. Then timelines overlapped. Details slipped. The judge asked her to clarify how my grandmother could have signed documents on a day she was sedated. My mother said she didn't recall. The judge asked again. Silence filled the room. It was the kind of quiet that isn't empty. It's heavy with consequence. Next came the notary. Calm voice. Clean records. She testified she never notarized the later will. Her log showed a different document that day, unrelated. My mother's attorney objected. Overruled. The judge asked if my mother recognized the notary's stamp on the will. She said yes. The notary said it wasn't hers. That single contradiction cracked everything open. I felt my stomach drop, not with triumph, but with sadness. This was my mother, and the truth was standing between us. Emails followed. Messages where my mother asked the new attorney how to finalize changes quickly. Another where she wrote, "She's getting confused." The judge asked who she was. My mother said my grandmother. The judge asked whether my grandmother had been declared incompetent. She had not. The judge nodded slowly. "So the urgency was yours," she said. My mother didn't answer. When my lawyer played the voicemail again, I watched the judge, not my mother. Judges hear lies for a living. What they listen for is intent. The voicemail wasn't dramatic. It was tired. direct. Please make sure the earlier will stands, my grandmother said. I don't want pressure deciding this. The judge closed her eyes briefly, then asked the clerk to mark the recording as central evidence. Ruling day came fast. The judge summarized the facts: conflicting wills, unverified notarization, pressure during medical vulnerability, and a clear expression of intent in the voicemail. She said the later will was invalid. She reinstated the earlier one. The duplex was split, upstairs to me, downstairs in trust for my grandmother's care costs already paid, remainder to be resolved per probate law. My mother stared ahead, unmoving. The gavel fell. Final. Outside the courtroom, my mother finally spoke. I did what I thought was best, she said. I believe she believed that. But belief doesn't excuse erasing someone else's wishes. I told her I wished she'd trusted me enough to ask. She said nothing. That hurt more than the loss ever could have, because it meant the silence was a choice. The duplex felt different when I unlocked it. Lighter. Like a weight had been moved, not added. I kept my grandmother's routines. Fixed what needed fixing. Rented the lower unit responsibly. I didn't rush changes. I didn't need to prove anything. Respect had returned to the space, and to me. Family reactions split cleanly. Some said I'd gone too far. Others thanked me quietly for standing up. I learned something important. Truth rearranges rooms. It shows you who prefers comfort over honesty. I stopped explaining myself. The court record spoke clearly enough. Months later, I found a note tucked inside a cookbook of my grandmother's. Don't let them rush you, it read. You think carefully. I trust that. I sat on the floor and let that sentence land. She'd known who I was. She'd chosen accordingly. That mattered more than property. Here's what I learned. Manipulation often hides behind urgency. Do it now. She's confused. This is easier. But real intent survives patience. Courts don't reward speed. They reward clarity. And clarity usually belongs to the person willing to slow down and ask why. My relationship with my mother never returned to what it was. It became quieter, but honest. Boundaries replaced assumptions. That's not failure. That's repair done correctly. My name is Caleb. A will was changed, and the truth changed it back. I didn't fight to punish my mother. I fought to honor my grandmother. If you're facing pressure to accept a story that doesn't fit the facts, remember this. Documents matter, timelines matter, and intent leaves fingerprints. Sometimes, the most respectful thing you can do is insist on the truth and let it stand.